My grandmother used to always say, never let people know what you have. Never let people know what's in your pocket, right?
Smart woman.
There's truth to that. But some of these guys, they want that glory. It's like, so I had someone ask me, they said, if you would you like to be rich, famous, or rich and famous? And I said, I would just like to be rich. I don't want anybody to know that I'm rich. Yeah. That's what I would want. I don't want anybody to ever, I don't want to be driving around in a Maserati. I have a buddy of mine. I don't want to say his name on the podcast. He could buy 1,000 Maseratis. He could buy the Maserati dealership. He drives a Ford pickup truck. You know what I mean?
But not a Prius.
Not a Prius. No, not a Prius. But that's a guy that you know, and when you know, you know. You know what I mean? Then there's a guy like Sam Bankman-Fried who's full of shit. And when you look at him, even Elon Musk said he was full of shit. Elon didn't get the warm and fuzzies from the guy, and that's why Elon
Musk didn't want to take money from him because he knew there was something up there. And listen, there's a lot of great people in the world that go undiscovered in this process. Like if you look at what Ken Lay did, and with Bernie Madoff, he was one of the first people to blow the whistle on that one. And everyone said, no. And he says, oh, no, I'm telling you, this is, and that guy was 100% right. Elon Musk is 100% right. He knows bullshit when he sees it. A guy who dreams about going to another planet and makes it happen the next day on his space launch pad is the guy that you got to believe, not the guy that thinks they know what they're talking about.
And anybody trying to make money, Achille, hates regulators. That's the 100% God's honest truth. Whether it's somebody coming out to do an inspection in your house for construction,
right,
and the township inspector has to come in and count how many Tico nails you use, and if he didn't get laid the night before, he's going to find something to. I had a guy say to me one time, "Oh, I see that you use spray foam to seal around this building." And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, next time use the green spray foam and not the orange, because the green one is better for pest resistance." And I'm looking at this guy like, you got nothing. So now you're going to make. He passed. Everything was great, and there was no problem.
Yeah.
But I've had other situations in the past when I owned my bail bond company and I own a finance company where we were regulated by the Department of Banking and Insurance. And the investigator he couldn't even say my name right. My real first name is Raphael. He will call me Raffle. I'm like, Raffle. I'm like, this fucking guy, but I don't want to correct him. I just wanted him
tickets here.
I just wanted him to leave.
We are now forever calling him Raffle.
Yeah.
We have to come up with memes and everything like Raffle.
I just wanted him to leave, right?
Raffle tickets.
I just wanted the guy to leave, right? But he, so I was always polite, always there, but you always have in the back of your head, this is his job.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, he decided that he wanted to be a regulator versus being like all these township inspectors. A lot of them are retired contractors, right? A lot of them are nice guys, but every once in a while you get one there's one guy that said, I don't know how you do it. I was never able to be successful in doing this. So I became an inspector. And you say to yourself, thanks for the frankness. And I think that's where SBF began. See, I'm touchable. Like if that guy fails that, like I go home and cry, and then I have to figure out what I have to do to make it not fail. SBF's in a different world. He's like, these guys can't touch me. He's like, I'm SBF.
The sort of the opposition to regulators is completely understandable, and it makes perfect sense, But at the same time, sort of this country has been through this before, right? We had a Great Depression in the 1920s, and a lot of it was, sort of unfettered banks doing whatever they want, gambling, and then just losing it all. So after the Great Depression, there was a huge law that was put in place called Glass-Steagall. And Glass-Steagall is a very complicated sort of framework. But basically what it said was that consumer banks, can't take their customers' money and then invest it in the stock market. There's a wall between consumer banking and investment banking. In the 1990s, Bill Clinton and the Democrats in Congress, along with the Republicans, everyone loved it. They repealed Glass-Steagall, and now consumer funds can be used for investment banking. And then you had the 2008 collapse, and the rest is history.
Right, sure.
The point is, though, that regulation for regulation's sake is always a bad thing. But there is a benefit to certain regulations, because unfettered free markets they don't care. They will, there will be a run on the bank that will lead to bread lines, down the street. So if you don't have some amount of oversight And the amount of that oversight is obviously what the dispute comes down to. But some amount of oversight is necessary to make sure that we don't all live in some sort of burning hellscape where, 10 guys at the top can just dole out whatever they want.
Yeah, but most people don't understand. I think here's the biggest problem. Most people don't understand that cryptocurrency was started for people who did not want the government or big business inside of their financial transactions. That was,
and I fully agree with it.
So you're already talking about, I will risk my money than rather have the government know what I'm doing with it. So that's the first condition. That's the first condition.
Right. So what crypto did, though, rather than the government, it was decentralized.
Yes.
So no one had control of it, whether it be the government or another bank. So the problem with the FTT token or the problem with even the US dollar, there is someone who is controlling that currency. The great thing about, the revolutionary thing about Bitcoin is that no one controls it, whether it be a government or a corporation. So, that has its benefits and its negatives. But FTX, though, when it comes into like financial instruments and derivatives and doing all these kinds of crazy stuff, it's not just, I give you $10, you give me $10 worth of product. It's a whole world of complication that goes into it. And that if you don't have like a referee who's like, listen, that's crazy. You can't leverage a $1 funny money bill for $100 of real cash. We can't let that. You need those guardrails, I think, to have a modern economy.
How about that they were making withdrawals and letting people know in their own circle how much money they were taking based on the emoji that they used. Did you see?
Right.
They would like put an emoji, and that meant like 100 million or 10 million, whatever money they were pulling out for themselves. So everybody knew that Ray was taking $10 million out.
I wish.
Exactly. On the Signal chatting app too, which means that after like 5 minutes, the chat is gone.
Yep.
They're transferring millions of dollars based on that.
I want to say one thing. I'm a firm believer in internet privacy. I'm a firm believer in cryptocurrency. I'm a firm believer in regulation of a lot of this bullshit. I do not think that the U.S. government should have any involvement in crypto and Ethereum and all of these types of coins. I don't think they should have any involvement in any of that whatsoever. I think the market and the blockchain itself has hashed out all the bullshit. I do believe
Ray, I disagree with the blockchain, because we already know that there's $505 million worth of crypto that's gone, that's not on the blockchain. So we know that it's not up to date.
But that's the fraud, though. It's not the currency, right? It's not the currency that's the issue.
No, of course, I agree.
And there should never be a regulated, like, the U.S. dollar, there's going to be a U.S. dollar coin that the government's going to regulate and do it.
That's
absolutely
the worst idea.
But the whole point of Bitcoin was supposed to be, the whole point of Bitcoin was supposed to be is that you are going to trade it freely, and there's going to be one place where every single transaction is listed, and we know where it is, and that is going to be our check. That was our check. That's the whole idea of it. So the fact that 505 million are missing is like, well, is there really a check anyway then now? Which is kind of what we're going through.
Because the check, again, we know that $500 million is missing. We know that on this date, at this time, it went from this wallet to this wallet. There's no question about that. We just don't know whose wallet that is. Right. And there's no way that they can track that, or at least, no simple way that we know that they can track that.
When the whole goal, see, I look at this, here's a deeper conspiracy in this whole thing. This whole thing comes crashing down. It's crashing down because of Binance. It's crashing down, and now the U.S. government's going to say, whoa, wait a second, everybody. We need some kind of regulation, and now we need to, the Federal Reserve is going to release U.S. dollar coins or whatever we want. They're already U.S. dollar coins, but they're unregulated. They're going to release a Federal Reserve currency that you can get paid in. Now, what that leads to, step 2, a social credit score. And they're going to say, hey, Ray, you make $1,000 a week, but we see that you haven't donated to any green causes lately. In order for you to continue making your $1,000 a week, we want you to donate 10% of your pay to your favorite green cause. What if I don't have a favorite green cause? Well, now you're not going to be able to fly on an airplane. I mean, it all sounds far-fetched, but it's also, like we were talking about off air, It's what's that TV show? It's in that TV
Black
show,
Mirror.
Black Mirror. It's happening in China with social credit scores. So that's the fear of this whole thing. There needs to be a crypto currency. There needs to be Coinbase. I have a Coinbase account. I'm very, very satisfied with Coinbase. They know who I am. I know who they are. They actually trade on the New York Stock Exchange. Coinbase, the exchange itself, is a public company. It's not going anywhere. Your money's not going anywhere. Now, if you put $1,000 in some token, I'm trying to think of one that I have a small, it's like at 0.000001. It's like a hundredth of a cent.
Right.
It might not be there tomorrow, but that's your problem. You know
well,
what I mean?
Let me tell you, this kind of goes back to what Ray, you and I were talking about in the last podcast, though, that there are ways to isolate yourself from these sorts of external, like, so you said Coinbase. Well, Coinbase lets you purchase coin. You don't necessarily need to keep it on Coinbase.
No.
So there's the term that they use in like crypto is called cold storage. So for me personally, I have an app on my computer. It's called Electrum. Electrum is not connected to any exchanges. It's not, it's not a means of purchasing coin. It is only a wallet. It's a wallet that is isolated on your computer, encrypted, all that good stuff. So you can go to Coinbase, buy your coin, then transfer it to this wallet. And then tomorrow, if Coinbase disappears, that's fine. You still have your coin. So after all this FTX things, you had a lot of the Bitcoin community come out and be like, I'm in cold storage. I have my coin.
Yeah.
I don't care. So I think that is,
I have a crypto wallet.
Like
I have a Coinbase wallet that's separate, that to get into it, you need to have 10 forms of identification and all shit that you made up yourself.
But here's my only issue with the whole.
No one's going to touch anything that's in there.
Yeah. Here's my only problem with the situation. We're getting to the place right now in the world where people are considering things like you could pay your mortgage with Bitcoin.
Yes.
Right. And when you start getting to that region of acceptance, that's where you have to start thinking about the regulation, about how real is this really? Like, what's the bare minimum we need to transact business that really affects people's houses, their companies? You know what I mean? Do you agree with that, or do you agree or disagree with that? Is the point?
I think we all agree, because we've seen the economy in this country over the last 100 years work successfully. We've seen people buy houses, invest money, build fortunes without there being this cold-hearted sort of like winner take all, blood in the water kind of ridiculousness. So where how we can transplant the sort of regulation that we know works, the responsible kind of FDIC insurance, the sort of SEC regulations that have put sort of guard, how do we transfer that into the Bitcoin realm, into the cryptocurrency realm, is a little bit more complicated. And the Bankman-Fried thing was like, everyone's like, oh, let's just listen to Bankman-Fried. He knows what he's doing. We'll just do whatever regulation he wants. Turns out he doesn't know what the hell he's
I really do feel
either.
like the government is going to say we need something with crypto, because now the Republicans and Democrats are equally dirty with Sam Fried money, right?
Yep.
Sam Bankman-Fried. They're clearly dirty with both sides.
They're all
both
dirty.
Sides have now clearly the left is a little dirtier than the right, at least publicly. But at the end of the day, now is the time for them to kind of get like the mea culpa and just step out of this whole situation. Say, well, everyone got fooled, so we'll make some changes to it, allegedly.
So here are my last two questions on the whole SBF thing. And I think one definitely feeds into the conspiracy, but one is also guys like Tom Brady and some of these other people who were
Larry David,
and some of these other guys that were saying, "Oh, buy the FTX token or do whatever."
Well, they were doing a commercial. Let's just make.
Do they have liability?
They were making a commercial, a Super Bowl commercial. Okay.
But do they have liability?
So they got paid with nothing. They got paid with air. The way I look at it is they have a lawsuit against him that they did a commercial for free because they paid him in token that wasn't even real.
I agree.
Whatever liability that Tom Brady or Larry David may have would transfer over to FTX. Because Tom Brady and Larry David would be like, I was fooled just the same way you were. How would I have known? I'm not an accountant. I didn't audit them before I did the commercial. So.
Sure. And I know that happened with Kim Kardashian recently, where she said this invest in something, right? Lisa, do you know that? I
So-
don't know who the company was, but
I know briefly, but I know she paid her fines immediately.
yeah.
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 You don't
So,
fuck
I
around
mean-
with the SEC, boy.
Exactly.
The Kardashian, the Kim Kardashian was a little bit different because if Larry David and Tom Brady had taken an active role in FTX, had something to do with like pushing this product to other people, if it was more than just being a spokesperson, then I think that's why Kim Kardashian had to pay a fine, because it wasn't just her being a promoter. She was actually like using her position, her influencer status to push a product for which she had a personal stake in.
There you go. Touting crypto security.
Exactly, unlawfully touting a security. What Tom?
You paid her bill, but she 1.26 million going to be Kim Kardashian. Just pay that bitch right out of your
Yeah,
pocketbook.
it's like chump change.
And you know what she said?
How much was that? Let me just write it. Here we
She
go.
probably fired everybody who told her to do this too, because the Kardashians are fucking shrewd. Don't let that big butt nonsense fool you. The Kardashians are fucking shrewd business people. And as soon as she saw this, she says, I am not going to be further investigated by this bullshit. I'm going to pay the $1 million. I'm going to fire everybody. And then I'm going to go after who I need to go after personally, because you don't want the government in your pocket like that. Now, how did the SEC regulate her? Because it was crypto, and how come the SEC couldn't regulate Sam Bankman-Fried, or can't go after Sam, or maybe they can go after Sam?
Well, you can't talk about a crypto, right? But you can own a crypto that's fake, and probably no one really asked the question. But if you stand up and say that you're touting it like it's a real thing, and you don't know that it's a real thing, that's the liability.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and also, like, Kardashian was paid money to promote something that, was considered investment advice. Yeah. So you're sort of blurring lines. Like, and someone who's giving investment advice has what's called a fiduciary duty to their investors. So it gets complicated. But again, this whole thing is fluid. So we don't know. Maybe SEC is going to go after, some of these promoters.
What happens with Carolyn Ellison? Right,
Our
this
favorite.
guy's girlfriend, our favorite person. She's
boy.
more, I think, of a bigger cover. He strikes me as just being like dopey, this guy, but she strikes me as being pulling the strings behind the scenes.
By the way, no one knows
opinion.
where she is right now. No one knows where she is.
She's a gangster, bro. She might be in the Bahamas.
Gangster. She might be in Dubai. No one knows.
She's in Dubai, bro. She's in a place with no extradition.
Hold on. I just have a serious thought on this.
God.
They said that 50 people had an equal stake of $3.3 billion.
Right.
And do you think there's any chance that this guy's ever gonna survive this?
He's gonna get whacked.
Do you think someone who lost $1 billion is gonna have this guy whacked?
I always wonder about stuff like that. Like, there are people who are way angrier than we are.
What if it was a drug dealer? What if it was a drug dealer? His whole cleansing operation has to do with using coin. I mean, you don't know, but I'm saying that's a lot of money. The level of money usually describes the pissed off part, right? If you get the wrong order for $1.50 when you get your takeout, you don't give a shit. If someone steals $3.3 billion, you start giving a shit.
And we're talking about like national governments here. Binance, for example, obviously not FTX, but Binance has been repeatedly accused of laundering money for despotic governments, Iran being one of them, Russia being another one, where, they're skirting Western sanctions using the Binance platform. So imagine if, Iran gave you $1 billion to wash their money from their nuclear program, and then that money's gone tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
I'm telling you, once they know the bodies, there's no bodies even buried somewhere to find the money. I don't think it will take very long. Epstein, what did Epstein take? How long did he take?
Yeah, no
before
shit.
the last shoe had to drop. But maybe a couple days. He was gone after a couple days.
But a lot of these guys are true gangsters, right? So if you're running a drug cleaning operation, a money laundering operation through FTX, and you just so happen to get caught out there that day, these guys are fucked. So they have to go to places where there's no extradition. I think this girl's in Dubai, and then they have to get protection, and they have to have something listen, there's money out there. These people have money. Sam Bankman-Fried, Caroline Ellison, there's money out there. They didn't just spend it frivolously and fuck around. They have an exit plan.
Fried
I'm
is supposed to
sure
be
they
going to
do.
Congress. He's supposed to be going to Congress in a week,
Yeah.
isn't it? A week.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
He's
Good
Yeah,
luck.
well.
SEC.
Does he make it there? That's my question.
It's
does he
Maxine
actually
Waters'
make it there?
committee. Maxine Waters' committee is the one who's calling
Is
him.
calling him,
So
and he's still got to
he's
be
not
there.
going.
The one he took pictures with, the blue kisses too. That one.
He's not
Yeah.
going. He's not going.
Ugh.
And then it leads me to this. Caroline Ellison, the girlfriend, her father has links to the SEC. And Rob, I know
Right.
you pulled up a chart from on YouTube that we were looking at that podcast earlier. And I know that there's some link there. And I
Right.
wonder how much that actually, because you can buy your way out of these things, because this is what's interesting. Who did he hurt? If he hurt a lot of grandmoms and grandpas
Right.
and people on Main Street, there will be outrage. But if
So,
he
Ray,
hurt billionaires, nobody gives a fuck.
This goes back to what you were saying before, that like, she just, goes off to Dubai, where's the money buried? The Ontario Teachers Fund wrote off $100 million as a result of the FTX.
That's
debacle.
almost all. That's like almost all their money, by the way. That's literally everything they have.
Retirement funds.
The whole
investment
union
funds.
is broke. The whole
All
union is
these-
completely broke.
So he did hurt
It's
people.
fucked
He
up.
did hurt
Yeah.
Main Street people.
So this $500 million, it didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of people's pockets. It came from investors' money. So I'm thinking like, this girl Caroline goes off to Dubai. Am I just naive for saying that? Like, how can you live with your conscience knowing that you have pocketed that much money wrongfully from like teachers in Canada who are just trying to help people? Like, that's not bother you?
I'll just say this: these people that we're talking about, they were extremely entitled, even from the very beginning of where they went to school and how their moral compass is so off to even be able to get even to step 3 of this 20-stage process. Hypothetically, you would have to literally be like, well, you're aware that we're going to steal money from people, and when it's all done, there's going to be no money left. Everybody knows this when you do the scheme, right? Everyone knows when the house of cards stops, there's nothing left standing. Everyone knows that. And you're talking about people who have no problem with that moral that moral compass.
Yeah, but let me say this. Let me say this about this real quick.
It really does.
You brought in the Toronto school teachers, whatever union investments, right?
Yeah.
If you're the guy in charge of that, I'm going to talk about this chart. But if you're the guy in charge of that, what do you see in FTX? What do you see that you would want to invest conservative investments of people's pensions? What is there? Well, it's not like, oh, I'm going to buy Tesla.
Same thing. Other investors
$40,000 on the exchange rate. It was $26,000. It was $40,000. I mean, it's real big money. I mean, remember, Berkshire Hathaway, the company, never ever split their stock, right? Ever. It's like $391,000 a share or something like that, in that ballpark. They want, eventually, that's the dream of that company, is that company is really worth that much money.
Yeah, but they have assets. Berkshire Hathaway has
everyone thought FTX was assets also, buddy.
Exactly.
That's the problem, is that they were able to
assets can mean anything. Assets can mean anything.
Bullshit. You don't think any investor said to themselves, and I want to go back to Caroline Ellison real quick, but do you ever think that any of these big time investment guys, hedge funds, guys for the Toronto Teachers Association, all these people, that they ever said, I wonder what's backing the FTT token? Oh, nothing? Here you go, Sam Bankman-Fried, have some money. There's got to be something.
Okay, but Ray, also, you're talking about a group of people where he did a $210 million deal with a company. And was playing League of Legends and cursing the entire time.
And they loved it. They were
like, oh my God, what an innovator he was. Oh, how on the edge he was. No one in their right mind would give that guy 2 cents, right?
Right.
But for some reason, because he's the daddy darling of the day, and he is the cyber currency prince, then somehow we're going to allow him to do whatever he wants.
It's all about entitlement. It's all about entitlement.
This is the time of 1% federal interest rates. Like, free money is running all over the place. So people are just seeing dollar signs. Like, wait a minute, if I put it here, a month from now it doubles and I can actually withdraw that money. Who cares if there's a fraud going on?
Now, if you got out,
I got my paycheck.
If you got out, that's like Dogecoin. Like, I was telling Rob my Dogecoin story. I was day trading Dogecoin. Right.
Yeah.
I had a couple 100,000 coins. It was like around a penny, 2 cents, whatever it was. I was trading. And usually I was liquidating every night for the most part. So one night, I don't know, I fell asleep, whatever happens, just stupid luck. The next day I wake up, the fucking thing's at 40 cents. And Seth Rogen is saying how great Dogecoin is. I'm like, thank you, Jesus. I have like 100,000 fucking coins in this, but there's no value to it. But what was my downside? It was because I did conservative investing. I bought a little something. I said, if this goes up, it goes up. If this doesn't go up, like Shiba Inu is the other one. Listen, I put a couple $100 in it. It's not my paycheck. I'm hoping that it turns out I have a friend of mine. I can't say his name on here because he got very, very wealthy by buying Bitcoin when Bitcoin, they were giving them away. They were $2, $5. And this guy was constantly buying Bitcoin. Well, he made millions of dollars on that. And it worked for him. FTX, people got caught out. I mean, that's what happened. But this guy actually committed a fraud. No one in Dogecoin or Shiba Inu or anything that I'm aware of has ever committed a fraud. Now, Rob, pull up that chart if you still have it. So here on the bottom left, there's Caroline Ellison. All right. Now, her dad over here is Glenn Ellison. But the dad has a relationship with Gary, whoever, Gessler, whoever you say his name.
Former boss. So
he's the head of the SEC.
Yeah, Glenn, Caroline's dad, was Gary's boss. So where do you think the power dynamic is here?
Wow, she's really the gangster.
But you got to remember, this is the wave around. This is the wave around that FTX was planning on getting. They were planning on having them SEC waive.
So exactly,
waive something that would make them legitimate.
Yep. So this is the no action memo that came out, where during the time that Bankman-Fried was going before Congress and like talking about this brokerage license, he met with Gensler, him and actually another one, ITX, another exchange. But they met with Gensler and they're like, listen, if we do what you say, then we need to come to an agreement where you guys will get a special brokerage status, something or whatever made up term by the SEC that basically says, whatever you guys are doing, we're just going to be okay with it. You're just going to be
amazing. And that's amazing.
No consequences.
So if you want to protect yourself in all of this, now you had talked briefly about your Electrum wallet. If you want to protect yourself in all of these things, all right, this is a great
a scary thing. This is
another wild chart.
This is only part of the chart, but this is all the things that they have stocks in. So you can in theory, all these are definitely impacted to some point or another because they're all connected. Either they were directly acquired by FTX or they have some kind of investment in FTX.
That top line you see that's cut off here, I think that's all Alameda. So like
there's a circle, there's a circle one. I'll pull up the circle one better.
Exactly, the circle one, right?
Yeah, here it is right here. This one here. This is the one where you want to
look how much Alameda did. Look how much Alameda had. All of that was FTT backed by FTT tokens. Amazing. All of that was funny money.
All scam. All that is a scam, and all that information. Now, whether I'm pointing to the Delta One over here, whether Delta One actually has a value base to it will be what regulators are going to have to do when they go through bankruptcy, right? To see was this thing that he bought illegally with Delta One, what is that worth? That's where they can. Is that true? Is that something that they would be able to recover and then give back to people who owned allegedly FTX?
That's literally what a bankruptcy court is designed to do. So the Rays the third, this guy, the CEO of FTX now, has gone before the bankruptcy court. He's like, listen, I can't even give you the most basic information about this company. I can't tell you how many employees it has. I cannot even begin to tell you. They didn't
know how many employees they had, which is hilarious, by the way.
It's fucking great.
There are hundreds of these little companies spread around that FTX bought, absorbed, or whatever. So going before a bankruptcy court and saying, like, listen, I have this much money to pay to debtors is impossible for them right now.
Mm-hmm. Was it all designed that way, though, Achille? Do you think that they designed it that when this happens, it's what a tangled web we weave? And they designed it like that. And then, hey, you go to Dubai and I'll go to somewhere else. We're going to sit on the beach and whatever.
I mean, I'm I think more cynical than most people. I think a lot of these financial instruments, even like the regulated ones on Wall Street, they kind of rely on the fact that it's more complicated than your average regulator understands. There's a great movie, The Big Short. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it.
Oh my God. One of my favorite movies. I watched the clips.
So good.
constantly. That what an
Yeah.
epic movie that is.
So there's that great scene with Ryan Gosling, and he's like, "This is my quant" or whatever, and he goes through all that stuff, and then it cuts to them, whatever the hedge funds, the short sellers guys, those characters going to like the regulators, and the regulator in the scene has on these like dark glasses. And the story, she had just had eye surgery or whatever, but like that visual representation is so exactly true that like there are regulators, but they completely have blinders on. They don't see anything that's going on.